everyone. Welcome to Fantasy Book Night. I'm going to start off by reading the Library of Congress Native American Land Acknowledgement Statement. The Library of Congress has long treasured and preserved Native American collections in a variety of formats. Today, the library is dedicated to building vibrant partnerships with Native American communities, providing respectful, consultative, and appropriative access to historic Native American materials, promoting innovative scholarship on Native American collections, collecting contemporary Native American works, and cultivating and celebrating distinguished achievements by Native American scholars and creators. Located near the confluence of the Potomac and Anacostia rivers, the Library of Congress is built on land that is part of the homelands of the Nakatunk, Anacostian, Piscataway Kanoi, and Pamunkey and Manahoac people. Indigenous peoples, including members of these nations, still live and practice their teachings and cultures here today. The library honors these stewards of the land and all of the indigenous peoples of the United States, who are the first peoples, including those in the region where the library now provides its service. The library works to interact with these groups in a responsible and meaningful way. Thank you. If you would like to read the statement and other information on the tribes that I have mentioned, please visit loc.gov. It's under our About section under History of Library of Congress. Now let's get on to the fantasy night. As always, like I said, welcome to Fantasy Book Night. This is our second literary event. I'm happy to see all of you here. I hope everyone's having a wonderful time completing quests. I think there's a dragon that's supposed to be around, and I know someone had a dandelion staff. That was amazing. So allow me to introduce my lovely authors. We have, for the dangerous ones, Lauren Blackwood, and we have The Last Tale of Flower by Roshani Chokshi. Pronouns for both she, her. I am your moderator. My name is Ashley Dickerson, she, her. I'm an acquisitions and cataloging librarian for Finland and the Baltics. I'm also a cosplayer, writer, and fae, because why not? At the end of the event, there will be a Q&A. I believe there are mic stands, and for those tuning in virtually, you cannot see the mic stands. Those will be directed at the end. I will let you know when you can line up, so definitely think of your questions. And there's also a book signing with our amazing authors right after this panel, so that is great. Please, please, please attend. So without further ado, let's go with the questions, and I'll start with you, Lauren. I know, shocking, right? When I was reading your author's note, first of all, I was like, ma'am, I don't know you. You can't blame me for the shenanigans. I appreciate it, but thank you for writing this book from the bottom of your heart. But I'm glad you chose to follow your heart, and I love how your story was both fantasy and a giant history lesson as well. You could have omitted some parts, but I'm glad that you kept all of it in, all of the raw details. So what drew you to writing a historical fantasy fiction as a natural choice?
Wow. I was thinking it's about time to write some vampires. So I thought the perfect opportunity would be the Civil War because they kind of naturally belong to each other. There's a lot of, media where there are Civil War vampires. They're Confederate soldiers, and it's supposed to be cool. And I'm well, let's write that Confederate vampire from the perspective of a Black girl, and that's where this story came from.
Amazing. I love it. So please talk about Jerusalem because I love her so much. So how did you form her character and her spirit?
Oh, Jerusalem. She's the best. So she escapes enslavement after the vampire who owns her murders her family. So she escapes and she plots her revenge by joining the Union Army. And she doesn't care about any self-preservation or anything. She's just like, oh, I can't die. Like, I'm powerful. She was just a lot of fun. She was a lot of fun to write because she doesn't care about anything, you know? She's not worried about dying. She's not worried about getting hurt. So she just dives in, like, head first into all her problems, which causes more problems. But it's fun to write anyway.
And just to pivot a little bit back to the historical lesson, because Alexei, the vampire in the story, I believe is Russian. And I believe in your author's note, because this is something I didn't know, you mentioned that during the Civil War, the Russian Navy came and helped the Union. Is that correct?
Yeah, at one point, the Russian Navy did show up to help us out a little bit. You know, it was for political reasons, but I was like, ooh, I can use that. Like, that's not something you normally learn about in school, you know? So I'm like, ooh, sprinkle these little facts in, and then it's a good excuse to make my vampire Russian, which I really wanted to do because the name came to me before anything else about him. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I want to name him Alexei, but that's super Russian name. So I'm like, how do I make him Russian? And perfect historical fact came with it. So I'm like, wow, yeah.
See, I love that because, like I said, when reading your book, you know, aside from all of the the Jerusalem, please sit down, girl, please put the spear down. This isn't the time. We need to use our heads here. Oh my God, she's running into battle. But I love the back and forth. I loved, like I said, I loved learning all of the historical facts. I loved how you took something that, you know, obviously is not like the best situation, but you made it, I don't want to say fun. That sounds really weird to say.
Fun.
So I'm not going to say fun.
I wrote it to be fun.
Okay, you
Yeah.
said it, not me. But thank you so much. So we're going to pivot just a pinch.
Yeah.
Roshani, I have a fun question for you.
Oh, no.
Not, oh no, don't do this. We're in public. So one of the things I loved about reading your book was how there was a blur between the lines of what is fantasy and what is real life. You know, the bridegroom's little brother, bridegroom who still doesn't have a name. Does he have a name? I've been calling him Brandon.
No.
Okay.
Give him only unsexy names.
Yeah.
I've got a running list. Bernard is at the top of it. Bernard. Anyway.
So his little brother being spirited away, the other world where Indigo and Azure connected to this world that was beyond human comprehension, the House of Dreams having feelings and holding on to memories and offering comfort when it saw fit. It was, you know, it was the ethereal, not of this world Indigo, who I have plenty of thoughts about, but we're not trying to spoil it for anyone who's listening. But I'm going to get to it because I like spoilers. Especially your way of having fantasy cover up the, you know, not so, you know, aspects of human nature. So how did you construct such beautiful world building? And is this your way of interpreting Tolkien's response to the C.S. Lewis quote? And for those who don't remember the quote offhand, the quote was, "Myths are but lies breathed through silver."
Man, you went into it.
Yes.
I love that. I am so drawn to that C.S. Lewis quote. Myths are like, just lives breathed through silver. One thing that I think is so essential about folklore and mythology is that it serves to answer the questions that we have no answers to. That was their original purpose. It was like, why did my child die? Why did my harvest fail? Why is winter coming? And there was a story for every phenomena, every sorrow. And for me, I think a lot about when I'm constructing something, there is an element of superstition always. And I think a lot of that is just informed by my own upbringing. I'm a first-generation American. You did a great job pronouncing my name, by the way. It's Roshani, or Roshani, if you're Indian. But I'm going to tell you a very quick tale, which is that my parents saddled me with that extremely ethnic name. My brother, Jayesh, can go by Jay, and my sister's name is Monica. All right? It's messed up.
It's messed up.
What motivates you? Spite. So much. Man, disrespect left, right, center. Why the hell did you name her Monica? But there is a reason. So, when my baby sister was born, she was very sick. And we actually thought that maybe I would never get a little sister. And so, my grandmother said to change her name so that death would not find her. So that death wouldn't find her. How bad is death at their job if they're just like, social security number check, address check, name. This name is all wrong. I don't want to be here anyway. I just want to binge watch Bridgerton. I'm going home. So my sister's fine. I once jumped on her bed at 3 a.m. when I was like 10, and I used my Gollum voice, and I was like, tell me your true name. And like she just kicked me in the throat. And it was, these things happen. But I always think about that. My sister's totally fine. She even got married. We're all shocked. But, okay, I'm just throwing her under the bus. Is this recorded? Well, I don't know, anyway. But those are the elements that find their way into my own world building, in the sense that we use myth and story as armor and anchor to show us where we are, where we came from, and to protect us from the things that scare us the most. Now that my daughter was born last June, I can't imagine anything more terrifying than loving someone and knowing that their fate is out of your control. So of course, you would reach for any grain of myth or superstition if it meant that you could keep them safe.
That is so much deeper than any of my answers. Like what? Where have we just been transported?
Do you want to do over? We have time.
No, I'm like...
My answer was deep. I didn't know that about the Russians. It was
hot
fascinating.
vampires and history. Yay!
Vampires.
And you're like, love and death and... All right.
That's why we write. That's why you're drawn to vampires. Love and death. What are the stakes if you can't die?
That's true.
Anyway, things I think about.
No, that totally makes sense because I read your book first and I was like, yes, okay, violence intent. He's a good man, Savannah, love him. And all this, and then I get to Roshani's book and I'm like,
I did therapy for 3 years and then I wrote it.
that makes same. That makes so much sense because I would just see her like,
That's my pitch. Enjoy my trauma book. It's Bluebeard, but not enjoy.
because I remember when I was talking to my friend, just dissecting the book, because going back to the world building, it was. I can't word it this exact same way you did, but it was I know something traumatic happened to Brandon. Yes, his name is going to be Brandon for the rest of this thing because you didn't give him a name. But it's like I knew something happened to him, but it was here's a myth, here's the spirited away aspect. His brother just disappeared. The Fae took his brother. And then through time, when you're reading the book, it was like, did your brother get spirited away? But did he get spirited away? There was like a blur. And that made me think of, with your book, with Alexi and talking about, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so we'll probably jump back into it. But the whole, how Alexi had so many good, fond memories of Zamir, but when we look at it from, outside perspectives, it's like, was this relationship a great relationship? If you want to tap into that for a pinch of a second, or we can just put a pin in it and go to the lighter question.
I mean, spoilers all around. It wasn't a great relationship.
Facts.
It's a lot of manipulation involved, and like there was this. Okay, so Alexei's origin is that he gets kidnapped by this vampire, gets turned into a vampire so that he can live forever and basically be tortured forever. And so there's one vampire doing that, but then the other vampire there is sort of like his mentor and comfort and like his friend, so he thinks. And then he finds out later that it's not exactly what he thought it was. But, when you're in a troubled situation like that, like any sort of comfort feels good at the time. So, yeah, I love Zamir because I wrote him, but, He's messed up.
You think?
He's also a serial killer, so that doesn't help.
That was the first thing I noticed, because I was like, okay, he kills people, that's fine. It's like, oh, you do arts and crafts with the bodies. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
First you drink, then bodies, arts, and crafts, you know.
I was there like, okay, let's get out of this flashback and go back to what Jerusalem's doing, because I am nervous. But since we're talking about, interesting relationships, let's pivot to Azur's relationship with Indigo. Ooh. So that stressed me out. I'm going to tell you right now, that stressed the skin off me. And you're laughing because you know that's what you wanted. I'm sure there were times I looked at both of your books and discussed after certain chapters, like, you're going to fix yourself when I come back. But from a technical standpoint, I won't say I necessarily liked it, but I appreciate the way you showed the build and the breakdown of Azur. The way of showing how, even though something is so well intended, or it's done with love, little by little, each chapter we got to hear more from Azur. We started to see less of her flame, less of her personality, because she was more or less getting like swallowed up in this codependency with Indigo. So tell us how you crafted that relationship, and what is something you want readers to take away from that relationship?
Oh boy. So, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, it is a story of marriage, but it is also a story of friendship, female friendship especially. And, raise your hand if you were ever a monstrous teenager. Every single one of these hands should be up. I see you. And that was something that really informed the relationship between Azur and Indigo. When I think about those sticky, messy, all-encompassing female friendships when I was like 14 to 17, like we were indistinguishable. We traveled in packs. I'm actually like shocked. I don't understand how I'm still alive. You sneak out of your house. Anyway, sometimes you get caught. But a lot about that relationship, which was so important to me, is that when you're that age, you are testing the limits of your own identity, and it is a point where magic is both hyper real and also when you age out of the innocence of magic. One of the things that has always broken my heart in fantasy is from the Golden Compass, his Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman. And if you're familiar with it, the main character, Lyra, is able to read this magical device called an alethiometer. But when she's young, she can read it through grace of innocence. And when she gets older, she has to work at it. And that is so sad to me. It's one of the things that Azur and Indigo in the book are really obsessed with, is how Susan Pevensey from the Chronicles of Narnia is not allowed back in Narnia, that she is cast out because she grew up too much. And that is such a strange point when you're that age. It's like you really are coexisting in two different spaces. You are your most magical, and you have to make a decision to leave it all behind. And that's what the heart of that relationship is.
Once again, your answers super deep.
3 years of therapy. I'm telling you.
And I'm like, oh, serial killer vampire. And you're like,
Listen, I have one for you if you want to get deep. It's totally fine. I'm loving everything.
all right, we'll see.
So, 'cause we talked about it a little bit, but I really want to dive into the relationship between Jerusalem and Alexei. So, truly, they're one of my favorites because I was rooting from them from the jump. He is head over heels for her. He's just in love with her. At first, the whole scent thing, I was like, okay, I know how I am at Korean barbecue, but that's not how you're supposed to be with people. Like, I get it, but you need to, like, chill. Like, daddy chill, right? And then it was, oh, I can tell he cares. He notices things about her. He pays attention to her. He wants the best for her, to shield her from everything, but he is literally the walking definition of everything she hates. One, he's white. This is like Civil War.
One, he's white.
Yes. That was like the first thing.
I like white people, but it's Civil War. It's a Civil War.
Because she kept bringing it up, and then he's a vampire, and it's like, oh, look, double whammy. This is terrible.
She was enslaved by, both.
Yeah, so I totally understood. I was like, fair, sis. Understood. Like, I'm not going to force this relationship, but he's a good man, Savannah. Like, so a lot of their relationship that stuck out to me dealt with healing and growth, especially on her part. So walk us through the development of her and her growth and letting Alexei enter her heart.
Okay, so, their relationship is sort of like enemies to allies to friends to frenemies.
This is a very interesting enemies. I'm like, enemies usually like, oh, we just happened to fight, ha ha ha, kiki kiki. This is different.
No, this is legit enemies, because she just escaped and went through the Underground Railroad to get away from some vampires, and then she gets to the Union Army, and look who greets her. As soon as she wakes up from her nap, there's a vampire in her tent.
Which was hilarious, because that's such a teenage boy, which makes sense, because even though he's like 400 something, he's 18. So that's such a hilarious, like, okay, I'm not going to go look at her. Okay, I'm going to look at her. I need to go. Let me touch. Okay, I shouldn't touch her.
Poke.
And then magically she wakes up and like trying to kill him, and he's like, oh my God, what did you do that for?
I guess I should have listened to my friends and not done that. Oops. Like, plenty of time to stop, Alexei. Plenty of time to think about the consequences, but he never does. So, but yeah, so he sort of like, not woos her, but like sort of coaxes her out of like her shell by like training her to fight, because that's really her goal, is to get powerful enough to murder this vampire who killed her family. So he trains her how to fight, and he encourages her, and he believes in her when none of the other saints, which are like my version of vampire slayers, when none of them believe in her because she's short and she wants to use a spear, which is like bigger than her, and they're like, oh, it's so cute, you look like a kid. And she's like, Alexei's the only one who like really believes in her. So she doesn't see it like that at first, but eventually when they're having to travel and it's like, and like really rely on each other, like she realizes, oh wait, this guy really is my friend, we actually do get along great. And but there's a lot of fighting in between, and the face I made is like, it really, yeah, she might kill him, but we'll see.
I'm not going to spoil it, and like there are youngins in the audience, but the hotel, ma'am.
Oh, the one bed scene? Yes, there's a one bed scene.
Because I was like, oh, this is YA.
Like, let me just tell you, it was hornier before, and my editor was like, this is YA, can we back this up? I'm like, you're right. I got it out of my system. Now we'll back it up a little bit. And then, I was reading through it, writers have to read through their writing like hundreds of times, and I was like, ugh, this is still pretty horny. But, hopefully, teens are horny too, right? Yeah, you guys will like it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Because in honesty, I think I was okay. Like, I was going to be okay with, whatever. But it made sense for it to be what it was, because it was a big hurdle for her, because she's, still learning about intimacy, emotional vulnerability. So to me, that moment, it was just like, oh, thank God, he likes it. Hallelujah, we made it.
And vampires are inherently horny anyway, so in my defense, I'm just writing a vampire novel, guys.
Okie dokie. Is it time? Yay.
So it's time for questions and answers. I have one more question, but that's totally for us. That will be for me. That's my treat. So we have Q&A. I believe there are mics set up. So if you have any questions for our lovely authors, don't hesitate to come up. If you're curious about my question, this isn't me peer pressuring anyone by any means.
May I just say, yet again, I'm talking about horny vampires, and your answers are deep. Like, every single time.
There wasn't. I'm actually so envious that you can write intimate scenes, because I'm telling, like, that. I get so awkward. I have to hide in my closet with a blanket over my head while I imagine my ancestors saying, "Where'd you land that?" I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, before we pivot to the Q&A, because I just saw I saw someone disappear behind. I'm not gonna lie. When I read that and then read yours, I was like, "This is adult. Where is the adult?" Like, I was like, "Okay, you used the F word. Okay, congratulations,
Can't
thank you."
do it.
But I was like, "Where's a swinging
won't
boob?"
do it.
Like,
I get shy.
hello, we have a question.
I'm kind of hidden behind this, so we're just gonna do that.
See you.
Hello. So as authors, like, what is the timeline from inception of a story idea to getting it on the books? Like, how long does that take for brainstorming, starting the outline, and then so on and so forth?
Ooh, that's a
It
good one.
depends on if you're doing it on deadline or not. If you're doing it on your own time, you can take as long as you want, and my muse would appreciate that. But most of the time, we're writing on deadline, and so we got to come up with these ideas pretty quick. Usually, a pitch and like a synopsis situation, I try to get it to the powers that be in like 2 weeks, so that I can start working on it. And of course, it's flexible, because by the time you start writing, you're like, oh, the muse is taking me somewhere else, so this is invalid, but at least, you have sort of like blocks to work with, a little bit of foundation. And then from there, it's usually about 5 months-ish, or do you get less? I think
My muse is my mortgage. Okay, like, I just need, like, all right? My muse is my mortgage, and my husband is a gold digger. So, like,
well,
Oh, when a creative is an adult. Oh.
It's interesting because I really think of writing as an act of transcribing something that's lived in your head for a long time. When we talk about getting the pitch and the synopsis, I completely hear you on like the turnaround time, and almost like sending it, as you said, to the powers that be, so we get the permission to write this, knowing that we can then get paid for it, especially if your muse is your mortgage. But I think that for me, it takes me a long time to realize where the inspiration for something came from. And sometimes it takes years, because inspiration ferments, it really does. It is like a fine wine. And I think a lot about how something that's really critical for any writer is to build in time to get bored. That is so important. Get bored. So bored that you start looking at other stuff. With like one of my books, I realized that I couldn't connect to the internet, or I was trying to connect to a speaker like 1,000 years ago, and I kept like pressing the Bluetooth sign, and I was like, I wonder why it looks like that. I wonder why it's called Bluetooth. Did you guys know that it's a Nordic rune? Yes. It's a Nordic rune named for King Harald Bluetooth, who was a Viking Denmark dude and was really good at mobilizing his troops. And I guess I don't know why he was called Bluetooth. It makes me think of Maureen Ponderosa's dead tooth from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But anyway, so he's called that, and he was really good at mobilizing and communicating with people, and so they named that sign after him. And that's one of those weird things of, okay, inception of an idea. Oh, okay, runes. Ooh, letters, magic. And then what? And then what? And then what? And you just keep poking at it. But yeah, Lauren's answer, 2 weeks, 5 months.
I mean, it depended. estimate, an estimate. And then you miss your deadline and you're like, oh, can I have an extension? And you're like,
Yeah.
so.
Oof. But you can't.
So your answer.
Well, I was going to say, you can't fix what isn't written, though. So really, honestly, like having to write in those pressurized whatevers, even if it's absolute excrement, you're like, I can fix this eventually. I've done it before. I don't know how I'm going to do it again. Someone will help me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can see me, but I'm Shweta. This question is for Roshani. I'm a longtime follower and lover of your books. And I wanted to ask you, my sister and I follow you on Instagram, and one of our favorite parts of what you post is your stories. You oftentimes take a picture of just your life or a little scene, and then you're able to write a blurb that is just so magical and so poetic. And I wanted to know how you apply that to your writing. And I also kind of have a second question. You write about myths and your heritage, and I wanted to know if you ever feel like a lot of weight in writing stories that are so different for so many different people.
Oh, wow. That is, first of all, thank you very much. That is such a kind question. I was so shocked, and then I got flattered, and then I forgot the first question.
You write beautiful little blurbs about pictures that you take or your Instagram.
Oh.
Filtering through a window, and I was like, how does that influence your writing?
I think I was a poet first before I was a writer. I love poetry. And
Weren't we all?
Actually, so I was creeping so much on Lauren because I'm really excited that we get to have this panel together. And one of the things I noticed was that we were obsessed with very similar books. One was Cock Song by Amelia Atwater Rhodes, and the second one is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. That is gorgeous writing. And if you love gorgeous writing, I was raised on Angela Carter. I'm obsessed with Catherine Valenti. I love prose that feels edible. And that's something that always inspires me. And it doesn't have to be verbose. One of my favorite examples of just truly gorgeous writing is in All the Light We Cannot See, where the author is describing a young woman who's blind, and it's during, I think, World War II, and she finds someone gives her a peach from a canned peaches, and it's this absolute luxury for them. And when she eats it, she describes it as tasting like wet sunlight, and that's it. That's the end of the sentence. So small and so vivid, and I just loved it. So that's how it influences me. And your second question was, the weight of mythology. All right.
About to give a thesis here.
Listen.
We have 5 minutes.
We do? Oh, I mean, all right. The
long as you say
story short of the weight of mythology is that some people aren't reading for joy. They're reading to be angry, and I was never going to make them happy in the first place. Writing a lot with Hindu mythology and the fact that it's so deeply intertwined with its religious practice, and my husband and I are practicing Hindus, the argument that I always cling to is that my devotion doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And India is a vast place. Of course, none of those stories are going to look the same depending on who does the telling. But for me, that's the line that I cling to. Is it something that delights me? Is it, to me, an act of devotion? Then I'm fine with it. But the response to people playing with Hindu mythology and the rise of extremism and nationalism in India right now is frightening. And it is the reason why when I'm asked about Arusha, I don't have plans to write more about it. And part of that is because I just don't need that energy in my life. I'm tired. It's really expensive to get your hair balayaged. And I'm graying, man. That's it. Gotta hide it. So thank you for your question. That was very sweet.
Okay, we have time, I think, for one more.
I feel that though. Who has more room for trauma? This might be my last trauma book. We'll see.
This is my last trauma book.
I just met you, ma'am.
This
Don't
is my
blame me in
last
the next
trauma
one.
book. And no, I'll write more. Yeah. You know.
But yes, since if we have no more questions, yes, come to the mic.
I'm gonna just hide behind this pillar real quick.
Yes.
So quick question on, we are in the Library of Congress, and I was just gonna see if anybody has any theories about what might have been in National Treasure in the president's book.
You can't do that.
Murder. Dead body.
I don't know why. I got so excited I hit Lauren. I was just like, let me tell you what
You're fine.
No, wait, what?
No, murder.
Murder?
Some kind of... They were covering up a murder. I'm just saying things, guys.
I'm on the clock, so I can't say anything.
Wait, you know?
I'm on the clock. I can't say anything.
You know things.
I'm kind of sort of still on the clock.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right.
I'll probably tell you guys because I have a question to answer, but we're, time. But yes.
I think it's a poison. I think it's a universal poison. And I think it would be named for Mithridates. And I don't know why, but I'm really excited about it. But I think, because I'm near Atlanta and we're not near the CDC, and they're like, we have smallpox. I'm like, but the Library of Congress is something else. Something else. Okay. Bye. Ask me about my hobbies.
Is it aliens, though?
Is it?
It's aliens,
What?
right?
Have 2 minutes.
Okay, I watched 3 Body Problem recently, and I just sat there, just catatonic. I'm like, I don't know why I live.
It's one of those things where it's like,
Who
I
am I?
know, but it's one of those.
It's
I'm very much
aliens.
on the
It's
clock.
aliens.
I am
Okay, we're good.
She knows.
I am representing.
Is that why Mark Zuckerberg is
an
building that
institution.
thing in Hawaii? That's have you seen that thing he's building?
Funny. But before we go, where can everyone find you on socials?
I'm only on Instagram. Well, I'm on TikTok because I was forced, but I'm on
Yeah, that's how all of us are.
Instagram, Lauren Blackwood Writes, and also the same handle on TikTok.
I'm on Instagram at Roshani Chokshi, and you can find strange etymology stuff and photos of my cat. So.
Like my post back so we can follow each other and I can send you random things. That would be great. We're a minute early, but if anyone has a quick question or... Ooh, you literally have less than a
I'm
minute.
still stuck on the Mark Zuckerberg thing. I'm not... okay, that's fine.
Well, because obviously you're readers and writers. I'm just curious, what are your favorite tropes to read, and what are your favorite tropes to write? And that can be romantic tropes or other. So.
Rapid fire, go!
I love Marriage of Convenience. Sorry. That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
That's the Filipino in me comes out. I just smack people. I'm so sorry. Me too.
Was that your answer too? Yeah. Did I steal your answer?
Yeah.
Awesome, great, because we are out of time. You guys are great. So again, thank you everyone for coming. These are our amazing authors, Lauren Blackwood.
Thank you to our wonderful moderator.
Thank
This
you.
was so much fun. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you're all a little nervous.
Yes, we're getting ready to go to the book signing, so get your books ready and all the things.
All right.
Yay! Thank you guys.
Bye.